Order. This meeting of the Denville Township Board of Education is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting was provided to the Daily Record and/or the Star Ledger of Morris County, has been delivered to the Township Clerk, and has been posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education office and at each of the school buildings in the district. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Sedalis?
Here.
Dr. Aruna Ditasan?
Here.
Dr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Kim?
Here.
Mr. Cass?
Here.
Mr. Capello?
Sorry.
Mr. Capello?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Okay, we don't have a need for executive session at this time. So at this time, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone, please rise. Okay, we have a lot of guests tonight. Thank you all for coming and braving the rain. I think our first, yeah. So Tim is here. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so Dr. Forte, would you care to introduce Tim Ford?
Sure. Can I have Mr. Ford and the Valley View crew come up for a minute for a mock trial? So Mr. Ford from Einhorn Barbarito and our advisor, Ms. Black, would like to say anything. Ms. Black, would you like to talk a little bit about the club?
Thank you. First off, I'm very grateful to have Mr. Ford. We were here the other day. The performance was amazing. The parents were very, very happy. And as my first year, this would be pretty much impossible without him. So I'm just very grateful, and I think he's an amazing resource to have. So thank you again, Mr. Ford.
And Mr. Ford, if you don't mind.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Forte, members of the Board of Education, parents. Every year, it's my honor to volunteer in the schools. The firm is honored to give a financial contribution to the Board of Education to help support the program. This all started 14 years ago. I think this is my 14th year. And the firm had stepped in to help support the schools. I think there were some budgetary issues. It was prior to your time. But it's one of my favorite things when I look at my calendar, when I get to go in and work with the students. My wife's a teacher, so I actually get to experience just a small bit of it. But it's a program run through the State Bar Foundation for 7th and 8th graders. They give 2 topics every year. They change, and the students create their own case. You know, they come up with their own facts. We work with the law. There's even creativity. They can make up the law. It's an excellent program. It's been a pleasure working with you. You've done an excellent job. So it's my honor, and here to present a check for $1,200 to the Board of Education.
So what Mr. Ford was referring to was about 14 years ago, like you said, there was a vote because the budget was really tight, and the board at the time decided to put a second question, which is a question to the public, that put all extracurricular activities on a question. That question failed by about 40 votes, and therefore all extracurricular had to either be cut or funded with donations or fees. And that was when Einhorn Harris at the time came in and decided that they would fund it, which I thought was an amazing thing. And so 14 years later, Mr. Ford not only comes with a check to support the program, also donates a lot of time to help out. And I think our kids really benefit from it. I know our staff who have done it for the past few years have always been appreciative. So that's why we think it's always important to make sure we remember our friends right down the road, Einhorn Barbarito now, and our friend Mr. Ford, who's been doing this for so long. So thank you.
Okay, next, before we move on to our next presentation, I just wanted to add that it's partnerships like these that really make our job easier. We have budget constraints, and they seem to get tougher every year. A firm like Tim Ford's contributing their time and their money to keep this going, which is a fantastic club. Both of my kids were in the club, and they loved it. So again, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the entire board. We really appreciate this partnership.
Money person has the check.
As a lawyer, we always like the money
You
person.
want to get in? Here's a check. 10 were handed to us. Again, it's like a surprise. The president takes it. I'll just be over here.
Thank you. Take care. Absolutely. Take care. Thank you.
Okay, next thing on the agenda, we have Denville Police Officer Bill Underwood, who's been our longtime DARE and lead instructor, and he's been a great friend to the school district, has retired. We wanted to recognize him. So, Bill, if we could ask you to come up.
This mic's on.
Oh, good. Okay, there we go. All right. Bill, I just want to say personally, thank you for all your years of service and your service to Denville. And we have children and now adults that remember you from, when they went through the program. So again, just thank you. But I want to read this proclamation. Whereas we are here today to express official recognition to Officer Bill Underwood and to honor him for his distinguished service to the Denville school community as a school resource officer. And whereas Bill began his career in law enforcement in 1995 as a Denville Township police officer, his career advanced, and in 2007, he was appointed as the department's lead law enforcement against drugs officer. And whereas from 2007 through 2018, Officer Underwood served as the primary security officer for all 3 Denville schools, was instrumental in the addition of Class 3 officers placed in each of the schools full-time. He continued to provide support to school administration, staff, and students as the primary point of contact for all police matters, helping to ensure the safety of students and staff while continuing his role as lead instructor, cultivating meaningful relationships with Denville's youth. And whereas Officer Bill Underwood has announced his retirement from Denville Township Police Department, and whereas on behalf of the entire Denville Township Board of Education, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to Bill for his dedication and service to the Denville school community and wish him much happiness as he begins his next chapter of his life. Now, therefore, in special recognition of the vital role you've played in the safety and growth of our students, I, Dino Capello, President of the Denville Township Board of Education, do hereby proclaim our sincere appreciation on your well-deserved retirement on Thursday, June 1st, 2023.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So Bill has been really amazing partner to the schools. Anytime we need him, doesn't matter, even if he's on duty. I know like Seth's back there shaking his head. We always get in touch with Bill and he gets back to you quick, even if he's in the middle of doing something else. I don't know, are we supposed to delete his number now or we can still do it? I guess, I don't know, we'll have to figure that out. But Bill has been an amazing partner, a great friend to the schools and the community. And also just wanted to give him a little something for his family, maybe to take him to Denville Dairy one night this week, one night this summer.
Okay, well, we'll keep this rolling along. Next up, we are going to recognize the Valley View Athletic County Champions, girls basketball and soccer. Dr. Forte, would you like to make the introductions?
Mr. English. Mr. Englishman, would you come up to the front? Mr. John Englishman is the vice principal and the athletic director at Valley View, and he will call up the coaches and they'll call up the kids.
Thank you. So we had another very successful athletic year at Valley View. And frankly, since I've been in the district 4 years, we've won at least one county championship every year since I've been here. So Valley View athletics has become synonymous with championship teams. So well done to the kids. But it wouldn't have happened without the support of our district leadership and our Board of Education, our coaches, but really want to thank the parents. There's a lot of car rides, late nights, and all the support that we get from the community. Again, we had a very successful year, winning 2 championships. Some of the girls were on both teams. And so it was a wonderful year and a great year to be a sports fan. At this time, I'd like to bring up the coaches for the soccer team. I'd like to bring up Mr. King, and for the basketball team, Mr. Santinello. Mr. King will go first, talking about the soccer team.
All right. The girls' soccer team had a very successful season. We won the Group 3 county championship with a record of 12 wins, 0 losses, and 1 tie. Ironically, the first game of the year is the one that we tied. It was after that game that, we kind of discussed with one another what it would mean to us to put another, year up on the banner. And through that, you got to see basically how passionate the girls were, how kind they were to one another. But when they got out on the field, they were not necessarily always kind, They were very aggressive. They played hard. They were excellent athletes. We finished the year with a goal differential of 61 goals to the opponent's 9. And every player on the team scored a goal as well. These girls are winners, I know there's a bunch of them here that pretty much had to decide what color shirt they were going to wear today, whether it was going to be blue or gray, because they also won with the girls' basketball team as well. There's a lot of 6th and 7th graders that aren't here because they have a soccer game tonight where they could actually win their flight as well. I'm actually waiting on updates for that as well. But this group, they got to the championship game. It was great having a championship game at Valley View on the new field, and then getting to win like we did, golden goal, extra time, everybody runs out onto the field. It was awesome. It was awesome. Do you want me to bring them up? Girls, if you want to come up. Oh. You're going to have to go back and get the gray one now, All right, I just want to announce all their names. If you are here, just raise your hand, wave, smile when I say your name. Tatiana, the pesky squirrel Sewell. Nutmeg, Megan Ferrand. Michaela Money Anderson. Kayla Too Cool Burrell. Skylar Sneaks Sales. Mahi Doc Desai. Juliana O.C. Anderson. Daniela D-Mac McNally. Tessa Cyclone Simone. That was an upgraded nickname this year. Your dad hooked that up, yeah. Warrior Wendy Graziani. Jillian Stumbles Pullman. Michaela MC Wicca Cumming. Nitro Nora Shimon. Ava IDK Whitney. Callie Boo Boo McNaught. I never gave Sam a nickname. Samantha King. Nala Foam Soap Patel. Claire Bumper Cars Margison, and Isabella Cheese Pimenta. I've been doing this for a while, and every single year, these girls, no matter what, they continue to come out and they just continue to amaze me, you know, with their attitudes, with how they play. Some of the goals that we had this year, you sent them to ESPN, they would be put up on ESPN's top 10 place, you know, definitely. So it was an honor to be their coach, and maybe one more round of applause. Oh, yeah, of course.
So now we're going to recognize the basketball team, also were county champions. Mr. Santinella.
That's pretty tough to follow right there. I mean, Mr. King's very good with his words, but a lot of things he has to say, I just have to repeat. I was here at Valley View for about a year. Had the opportunity to coach these girls. I've coached middle school basketball in other places, and I have to say it was my honor. I thank the parents. They were super supportive. I thank the kids. I thank the feeder programs, and I thank Mr. Plum for having a kid who went to high school and he stepped down, so I got to coach these girls because that was really easy. I think the one thing we always try to teach these girls was about, you know, commitment and being together as a whole. We had a couple of activities after school where we kind of designed our own T-shirts, kind of made a little party out of it. I think we introduced the first 8th grade day at Valley View, and hopefully that's a tradition that will continue. I think the 8th graders enjoyed that day. Kind of gave them a little like senior high school experience. But just like Mr. King said, these girls were tenacious. I mean, I definitely would not want to be standing in the middle of the court as Tessa Simone is running down the court trying to take a charge, or trying to block Isabel, or trying to guard Danielle, or, I mean, all these girls just were amazing. And I feel like the 6th and 7th graders had awesome leadership to look up to. The 8th graders definitely came and showed them what hard work does. Coaching was just easy. I just stood there, pretending like I knew what I was doing, and they just did it all. There was really, I think besides our first game, it was just blowout after blowout after blowout, but we always did it respectfully. The one thing I will say, a lot of times the referees would come up and say, hey, your girls are really good. They would be telling the other team where to go on offense. And to me, that's just sportsmanship, and that's something that gets lost out there. But we finished with a 14-0 record. Except for our first game in Roxbury, there really was no challenge, and it's really a credit to them. We had fun in practice. We kept everything light, and when times did get stressful, they responded on their own. And like I said, I just stood there and tried to look pretty. But that's it. I'm going to do things a little differently. I'm going to kind of call them up by grade level. So if they're here, they can come. I don't have cool nicknames like Mr. King over there. I teach math, so I ain't got too much there. Okay, so Callie McNaught, Bianca Nash, those are our 2 6th graders. So we did have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders on our team. And actually, I'm going to introduce one more 6th grader. I know they're not on my list, but I'm going to mess up this last name for sure. Ariana Sanato, right? Come on up, right? So, like I said, we believe in the team, family, atmosphere. Ariana was one of our 6th graders that came out. She didn't get cut, but she wanted to be our scorekeeper, and she was a huge help with the other 2 scorekeepers that were with us. Our 7th graders, Michaela Cumming, Grace Heimbach, hopefully I'm saying this right, Isla Fitzsimmons, Emma Moore, Zoe Sonato. Right, those are our 7th graders. Now, before I get to the 8th grade players, again, I want to recognize one of our scorekeepers, Tatiana, roots for the right team, 49ers, Seawall, right? She knows where to go. Tatiana was always there with Ariana, and I know that we had one more, Samani, who obviously could not be here today. As far as our players go, Michaela Anderson, Nora Shimon. Mess that up. Right. Our super sub off the bench, Anshika Pradhan. Our do-it-all, Megan Farrand. Right? You have to understand Megan, being the size she is, how to take passes in between giants and always caught them, and God bless her soul. She was awesome. God bless her soul. Isabella Iannatelli. Daniela McNally, that was our point guard. Caitlin Desbians, that was our big person in the middle clogging up. And then again, we have Tessa, I don't want to take a charge, Simone. So again, really proud of these girls. Hopefully when they go to Morris Knowles, they continue the tradition. Morris Knowles has a really good program. And I just hope that they stay together. And hopefully my 7th and 6th graders really did learn from the 8th grade class, which was just truly phenomenal to watch. Congratulations.
Yeah, stand next to them.
We got squished. Why don't we do it?
We always do this, but then you always leave empty-handed, so we're like, this time we're gonna give you something. Coach too. Oh, there we go. Good job this year. It was good to see you guys play. I saw a few basketball games, some soccer. Great job. Coach Tim, you guys gotta come back up. See that? Good. We have somebody I'd like to talk to you too. Let's see if the door. Mike's muted.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
You can see here too.
Dino, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good, Mike. Go ahead.
Okay. Hey guys, it's Mike Anderson. I'm sorry I'm unable to be there tonight. I am down in Austin, Texas for a work meeting, so I'm sure Michaela is rolling her eyes now, but she knew I couldn't not say something. I just wanted to say how proud I am of all these girls. I've had the distinct privilege and opportunity, as did Mr. King and Mr. Santinello, to coach some of these girls. 7 of them crossed over, as you can see, between the two teams. Excellent accomplishment on them. I'm really happy to see everything they accomplished. And Mr. Santinello kind of stole my thunder. I was really going to talk about their sportsmanship on the court and on the field. There were a lot of games that weren't very close, and these girls did very well competitively, but were always there to support the other teams and make sure that that they knew that sportsmanship was most important. So thank you, Mr. King and Mr. Santinello, for emphasizing that with the players. Congratulations, girls, to your accomplishments. 3 years in a row, if we exclude COVID, for the girls soccer team. Excellent accomplishment. And I think it's the first year that the girls soccer and girls basketball have won the same year. So phenomenal accomplishment. I want to thank the coaches for their hard work and dedication. It's a long season with these players, and they not only didn't give up on them, but really kept ensuring that they were working hard with them. So I appreciate it. And just wanted to quickly thank Officer Underwood. I apologize I'm not there. This is probably the one meeting I wanted to make all year. Unfortunately, my paying job got in the way. But Bill, thank you for everything you did. My 3 kids had the privilege of having you as their lead officer, and phenomenal experience with them. They're better for that experience. And Mr. Ford, thank you for your continued support of the program up at Valley View and your continued donation and support. So congratulations to everybody, and apologize I can't be there in person, but Dino, thanks for the quick opportunity.
Thanks, Mike.
Great summer. Enjoy your
Thank you for Mr. Anderson for being able to come on. Yeah, we don't usually watch TV at board meetings. So again, I just want to repeat the congratulations to all the players. You guys had obviously a tremendous season. You worked super hard. I know that the things you learned will continue on with you and serve you well in life. Hard work, teamwork, leadership. I mean, all those things you've obviously demonstrated. So again, we're super proud of you and congratulations. Okay, at this point, we have one more presentation. Actually, we have Charlene Peterson, who is our representative from New Jersey School Boards for our self-evaluation and goal setting, which we're going to be moving on to now. Students, I understand, I know you still have school. You have school tomorrow, so you're more than free to leave. You could always stay and attend the meeting. That's up to you. But if you'd like to head home, that's totally fine.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. As I was sitting here, I was thinking, as I was hearing all the sports and the accolades and talking about teamwork and talking about working together and leadership and good sportsmanship, I thought, like, I almost feel like I'm the board's coach here tonight, right? I'm kind of talking about all the work that the board does. So I just really wanted to just spend a couple minutes talking about the board self-evaluation, and then we'll switch over to the goals. I apologize that you just got the report today. You actually just finished it today as a group. And then one of the things that we found on New Jersey School Board's end is that some of the comments were truncated. So our IT said we are having some kind of an input transmission where too many people if they're submitting, all kinds of people are submitting at the same time, that sometimes some of the information got lost. So you'll see in some of the comments that they are truncated. So if anyone wants their comments put in full and wants that corrected, please feel free to let me know. So I just really wanted to kind of commend the board on this work. The board self-evaluation is what we consider a good governance tool. It used to be required by the state, and then maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, they relaxed that requirement. So the boards that continue to do it because it's a good governance practice, that if we hold the rest of the district accountable, we should hold ourselves accountable. So this is an effective way to do that. And as we look at the board self-evaluation, a lot of times we learn different things about what we're doing. Sometimes it's areas we need to work on. But in this case, it was really kind of a validation of the great work that you're doing as a board. The board self-evaluation is based on a 4.0 scale where the board evaluates itself over 9 different areas. So in this case, 6 of the 7 board members filled it out, and the overall average over the 9 areas for the board was 3.6. And there were no, like usually I'll say, okay, these were the highest areas and these were the lowest areas, and there really weren't any low areas. There was, 3.5 was the lowest. So you really stayed in a range, and 3.8 was the highest, and that was in finance and board performance. So, the board pretty much is high performing in almost everything that it evaluated itself on. And, but more than anything, I just really kind of wanted to speak to the language of the comments that the board wrote about itself. And I feel like if I could write down and describe what a perfect board would look like, and if someone could fill out a perfect board self-evaluation, what are the things that I would like to hear or see, a board say about itself? And I feel like if once you get the chance to go through your board self-evaluation, that as a group, you're going to be very proud of this work, proud of this demonstrating the work that you've done together as a board team. And it just, it would, like I said, you just went through each area and talked about respect, talked about commitment, talked about the focus on the students, talked about understanding your roles, talked about the, respectful relationship you have with one another, with the superintendent, valuing the work that your staff does and wanting to support them, the importance of your community's voice. So you just really demonstrated in all of those areas ways that a high-performing board would fill this out. So I just didn't want to get into too much detail. I wanted to give you time to read it, but couldn't let this pass without thanking you for the work that you did, and you'll be proud when you have the chance to really look this over. So thank you. Okay, I'll turn it over to the goals now.
Thank you. Sorry, I need a second.
And just by color, while Dr. Forte is getting ready, just for the public, so this is a process that the board endeavors to do every year. And as Charlene said, it's not something that's required necessarily, but we found it something that is super helpful in terms of getting us all on the same page, understanding where we feel we are in terms of our individual board duties and responsibilities, but also how we're functioning as a board. So it's, again, it's something that, all my years on the board, I have found it useful this time of year to kind of stop and just take a moment and really think about, what we've done and what we're doing. Charlene, actually, I did have a question. So the questions or the comments that have been chopped off, is that data permanently gone, or it's just going to take a while to get, or is it gone, do you think?
So they're saying that we never
It never,
like it didn't transmit, so we didn't receive it.
Okay.
Yeah, so if someone recognizes their comments and thinks it would be helpful to have it added on there, they would just have to,
fill it in?
yeah, or
Okay,
let me
but-
know.
Okay, but
yeah.
what we've got is what we've got, basically. Okay, gotcha, thanks.
In your board packet, you can click on the presentation. It's under Board Docs, and it says District Goals Recap. Ricky's going to get it up on the screen. And for right now, I'll start up anyway. Just like we typically do, we go over what we did, what our goals were for the current school year, and then we talk about some things we think we should work on for the next school year. So our goals were to, for 22-23, were to create a new multi-year strategic plan, increase achievement for all students with a focus on grades 3 through 8 math. Goal 3 was to foster inclusive and welcoming school environments, and Goal 4 was to increase resilience by focusing on mental health and wellness. So our update, Goal 1, create a new multi-year strategic plan. So we had our representative, Charlene Peterson, who's here with us today, and she helped guide us through our new strategic plan. There were 122 unique members of the community participating, including the Lakeland Hills YMCA, downtown Denville, the mayor, and the Denville Police Department chief. The meetings were held, goals and objectives were created, planning teams were formed. The plan was presented to the board on 5/8 and approved on 5/22. So we could say that that goal is complete. And we have and the next slide is a picture of our new strategic plan with our goal statements for 23 to 28. Our second goal was to increase achievement for all students with a focus on grades 3 through 8 math. It was to provide interventions to move forward and fill gaps. Dreambox was implemented in daily use in classrooms. Frax 2 was purchased for 4th and 5th graders. That finished Reflex and Frax 1 was an extension for Reflex and Frax 1 math. Virtual and in-person tutors were provided. Math Win, which is a student motivational program in grades 6 through 8. It ends in May. And small group instruction to close identified gaps. Benchmarks A and B were administered through grades K and 8. Foster inclusive and welcoming school environments. We increased access to diverse learning materials, utilized our Heritage Celebration Committee to promote inclusivity. We purchased diverse materials, cataloged and distributed them, commemorative monthly activities, Black History Month poster and poetry contest, door decorating contest at the middle school, staff professional development on how to raise race-conscious children, book audits continuing, and expanded the diversification of classroom and building libraries. Goal 4 was to increase resilience by focusing on mental health and wellness. We reviewed all staff and student wellness programs. Dr. Michelle Borber presented on March 22nd. And we had mental health and awareness professional development on May 3rd. We had yoga, workout Wednesdays, and Tone It Up Tuesdays offered for staff. School of Good Character Award for Valley View. All 3 schools were awarded this. Valley View is the most recent school to achieve that. We had a wellness fair. We had SEL surveys to parents incorporating parent participation. We did the program If You're a Gardener by Shanna Trufani. And our SEL committees at each school were there to promote SEL learning. Some possible goals for the next year, for 23-24. These come with a code. They're coded to the new goals, and the new goals, I believe, are in your packet. And you can see the coding that we have. So for the first goal, we would like to continue with a goal that has to do with achievement for all students and math and science focus. That goes to student success number 3. Continue to develop tiered systems of supports to help all students succeed. That deals with caring culture number 3. Investigate, plan, and communicate options for the expansion of current buildings to accommodate possible increases in student population. That's operations 1. And the last one that we'd like to present to the board is to develop a plan for consistent and streamlined community communication, which comes directly from family and community connections, goal number 2. And then I leave a blank space for board goal and some time for a discussion among the board. The board sees on the second to last slide the 4 goal topics that we, as the administration, would like to address in the coming year. We feel that it's something from each of the 4 strategic goals, and some of them are a little bit more pressing than others. So we want to get started on some of these things pretty quickly, and we'd like to see if we could get the board support in adopting goals in those 4 areas.
Okay, so just to give a little context to the community here that might be watching us, is that it's part of an annual process that the board and the superintendent come together to develop goals, district goals that feel will move the district forward in the next year. It's particularly important when we have a strategic plan to use that as the basis of this work, and that has always been the priority here in Denville, of taking the input that we receive from our community, and then we tell them that the way we make sure that it's a living, breathing plan is that when we develop these annual goals, that is, that we'll make sure that this work is connected to the plan, helps carry out the plan. So we are looking and kind of, coming together as a group and saying, if we had 4 things that we think are so important to move the district forward, that we're going to hold the superintendent accountable by putting them in his evaluation, what would those things be? And we make sure that there's no more than just a handful, because otherwise it dilutes the effectiveness of them. We want to make sure that we are really picking those things that we feel are important. And if we look at our role as board members, and if we're saying that we're not running the schools, but we want to make sure they're well run, we need to take the input from our administration to tell us what things they believe are a priority. And then, because this is a joint or collaborative process, we can add some things that we feel would be important, or, kind of have this be a conversation with the board. So, we know we always have to have a student achievement goal. It's the basis of what we do. And again, in the board self-evaluation, there were just so many times when the board said that this really is what drives your work, is what's in the best interest for the students. So recognizing that student achievement is the basis of all of that. The first goal here talks about, continuing that, and I think it's important that it has the words there for all students, right? So making sure that that's a priority. And then we see the focus of math and science. So would like to turn it over to the board then for your conversation or thoughts about this goal. Usually I bring my big yellow pen, but today it was pouring rain out, so I just have whatever could fit in my bag. So yeah, so I will be taking notes. Yeah.
So thank you. That's thank you to both. I think that's a great place to start. I'm going to open it up. Anybody have any initial thoughts on looking at these, and any kind of initial reactions? So why don't you start?
Thank you, Dino. I didn't see a slide for our board goals for this current year. And Charlene or Ms. Peterson, can you sort of give me some context or some examples of what other districts might have had for board goals? In my mind, I'm thinking it's more instead of focusing on what the district or the administration would do, maybe just as a collective board, maybe what we should strive for either during meetings or outside of these board meetings. What are your thoughts?
So it is really, like you say, focused on the work of the board, that as a board, we have a responsibility to focus on our governance work, recognizing that there is, more and more evidence that high-performing boards working together with their superintendent can have a positive impact on student achievement. So as we look at our work and say, what are those things that we feel perhaps we would like to give some more attention to, again, with the difference or the distinction being that all of the tasks to accomplish the goal have to be the work of the board. So you can't set a board goal that the superintendent or someone, a staff member would have to help accomplish. So board goals will look at your work and say, what do we need to focus on? Boards will sometimes set a goal around training, sometimes perhaps a goal around re-examining their committees, looking at their policies, like what are things that the board is working on that the
sorry.
board would like to give some attention to.
If you don't mind, just to keep it, or what we'll do is let's focus on the district goals
District
first,
goals,
and
yeah.
then just to keep it, so.
Perfect, yeah.
There's a blank slide at the end, but you didn't have a board goal for 22, 23.
Right.
That's why there's no
There's
recap
no
of the
recap
current
of
goal.
that, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. In that case then, in terms of the district goals, I think it's clear for number 3, in my opinion, that is a huge mountain that the district and the board and the administration is going to have to climb. We are definitely faced with increased housing, potential for increased enrollment, as well as the demographic studying, all of these factors pointing to maybe tsunami is too strong of a word, but a huge influx of enrollments. And as a result, we are going to be faced with challenges with classroom spaces, as well as making sure that the classroom sizes are manageable for our staff. So I think number 3 is clear cut from my perspective.
Andrea, did you?
Oh, great, thank you.
I'm half in agreement with that, to investigate, plan, and communicate options for the future, absolutely. I'm also thinking in the terms of ways that we can help our students as well, and what kind of mental health and, future issues there might be coming out of the pandemic. So I do want to kind of remember that. But yes, that's going to be our biggest issue, just providing a space for the students in general, yeah.
Yeah, if I may add to that, I think one of the things we've put in our goals, and I can't see it right now, is the resilience of the students. And I think that's something that it'll be worth focusing on, because that's, the world has become a more challenging place than it was 20, 30 years ago. And I think for kids to be able to bounce back from any of the challenges the world throws at them, the resilience is key.
So now, is the resilience and the mental health, is that part of the tiered system? Like, would you consider that to be part of goal number 2 then?
Yes, I would. That's everything. So yeah, that's a tiered systems of supports is academic and also behavioral.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're all kind of tied together in one way or another, which is probably why they ended up on here. And I think that I don't. Three is certainly the most urgent, but there's I remember an old pamphlet, The Tyranny of the Urgent, and the urgent often gets our most attention, but it may not always be the most needful. In this case, it's probably both. But just for number 1, what stands out to me is all students. I like that. I think it's a lofty goal, but I like the fact that Denville likes to hold up lofty goals. And my experience with the administration and the teachers has been that there's been a genuine desire to see each student succeed. So far, that's been my experience, and it's impressed me, and it's kind of, that's my heart. I want staff and teachers to really want every student to succeed. So it's not that, oh, we're going to sort of accept, we got a majority of the students, and if a few fall away, our stats are good. I don't really like the idea of leaning too heavily on good stats when it's at the cost of, even one or two kids. For the second one, my passion kind of always leans toward emotional well-being and EQ. And the only thing I'd like to say to that is I'd like to see those ideas become more operationalized. It's nice to say we want more resiliency, but what does that mean? What are the specific skills that would help a student to be more resilient? Anxiety management, better communication skills with better resolution, and what skills. That's the only way we can measure how well we do with these things at the end of the year, is to know, did the students consistently get the message and the skills that we think build resiliency and success, and were they able to apply those skills? Certainly, 3 is self-explanatory, but again, I want to say that I think Denville has strived to do a really good job. So we don't just want adequate resources or acceptable resources. We want resources that, class sizes that help kids to thrive. Again, not just a number that, well, every other school kind of accepts these numbers, so we can. That's not really acceptable for me. And the fourth one I think is really important too, because I think that there are hindrances to and roadblocks and walls to the community and the school, and that's where mistrust comes in. And I really believe that if families can really see and get to know the people behind the scenes, they would see that there's a lot of good hearts and good intentions. Sometimes it doesn't always pan out, but I don't think it comes from ill intention or lack of desire. And again, the more we can communicate, the more we can bridge the gap so that families can really see and get to know the staff and administration, you really lower that sense of mistrust. And you also, just build a better partnership. More and more, that's needed. We need the parents need the schools. It's a relationship that, well, it only works well when we have a good relationship, at least in my opinion. So those are my thoughts on those goals.
Thanks. Don, care to join?
Last but not least. 1, 2, and 4 are going to, if you look at a percentage of who's going to do what, obviously we have to approve a lot of things that'll come up for us to vote on during the future months here. But I see that, a lot of that responsibility is going to be with the administration and then, the principals and the teachers and everything. The one that's going to be the heavy lifting for us, as we've reiterated, or I'm going to reiterate what everybody else was talking about, is the space issues. And we've already started to make some progress on that. We're going to have a subcommittee to over the demographic study and take a look at the numbers by classroom and see how that shapes up. But Clip was good talking about, I don't know if it's urgent, but it's close to it, because you drive around town now, you see some of these developments, they're up and running, especially one at Franklin Road. I go past there, I don't know, 4 to 6 times a week. So I see, that going up there is going to be a lot of people. Plus the one over there on Franklin Road by Knowles is, they have sales going on now. So a lot of increase in population in the town, which will translate to more students. So that's something you can't get done in a hurry. You need X amount of classrooms and space, and it takes a while to do that. And it also takes money. And as you know, we always juggle with the budget every year as how much state aid we're going to get. And I know there's support from the state on on buildings and grounds when you have to do expansions and repairs like that, but that money you don't see for at least a couple of years, even after it's approved. So that's going to take a lot of work, a lot of debate too, and getting back to a lot of communications with the parents and the community at large, especially from a tax standpoint. And I remember when we opened the Riverview Annex, people came in to talk about it when we did some presentations, and a lot of people were latecomers as to what was going on. And some people were very concerned about all of a sudden their kids were going to be in a foreign building across the street. And they had this warm, cozy feeling of being in Riverview, and now they're going to go over to the annex. And of course, we know, once we did it, very popular, everybody's happy over there. So that's going to take a lot of work for us to do. I mean, to me, they're all the things we have to support for our goal for this year, but I think number 3 is going to be more board involvement and work initially, and then through the whole process till we figure out exactly what we're going to do.
Great, well, thank you all. I mean, so, just to kind of summarize a little bit what I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think strong support for the first 3 for sure. I think, and I think I heard this from some of you, is I think the 4th one ties the others together. And I think Don touched on that, is that the communication piece is important for us, especially with the building and our expansion, but also the other items as well, as what we're doing to increase student achievement and the tiered system of supports, especially around mental health. I think us having a communication strategy that communicates all that is going to be really important. So to me, they're all tied together. I mean, I'm a fan of all 4. I obviously think the first 3 are the biggest priorities. The only thing I would add to what everyone else said is, in terms of number 1, math and science focus, but I just want to make sure that we're looking at all curriculum issues, coming out of COVID, not only in math and science, but I think in spots in English, different grades. I think we saw some test results and some achievement that, is falling down a little bit as a result of everything we went through at COVID. So I would just say math and science focus, but the rest of the curriculum, I think, should also be part of what we're looking. I think we should really look very closely at where achievement isn't matching what we want it to, whatever the subject is. And then again, tiered system of supports. As long as we're including a strong mental health element into our plans, then again, I'm very supportive of all of them.
So remember, I always like to remind us, but see how I put the word topics up there? Doesn't necessarily mean there's the exact goals, but so we can, which is fine, even though to us, we feel that the mental health is included. But if the board would like the word including mental health, something like that added to the goal on number 2, that's totally fine. And I think I agree with everybody. 1 through 3 are the most important by far. And the 4th one, that is one that could be on the back burner if that's what it is. That's not, it's something we should do, but it isn't as pressing as 1 through 3. So if the reason why I'm bringing that up is if you want to break out TSS into TSS academic and TSS mental health, we could remove 4 and replace 4 with that. I feel like 3 is such a large, time-consuming goal that to add a 5th goal is probably not a great idea in this particular year coming up. So that's why I think if we want to take our focus and focus on 1 through 3 and split number 2 into 2, that's fine. But I really don't think we should make it 5. It's just going to be a lot of, there's a lot with number 3. I mean, it includes every department, right? I mean, it's going to be academic, it's going to be everything, finance, and then there's a lot of moving parts too on whether or not there's funding from the state and what could we do with their current building envelope and all the other things that we have involved there. So that's my bit to you, is that I think these are important goals, topics, and like we normally do, we either tonight we try to, focus in on something and then Charlene emails it to me, or what we could do is also we could go back, I could meet with my team tomorrow and then, kind of streamline these a little bit.
So I'd say one thing, and it was actually my concern, I'm glad you raised it, is in terms of your bandwidth, right? So I was wondering about that. Like, if I was going to pick the three on this list, to me, it would be the top three, and I get the sense from everyone else, similar feeling. So if you feel that expanding some of the focus of those three, and dropping four, deprecating four back to, something, we're always working on communication. We've been working on it the 9 years that I've been on the board. It's always been an issue. But if we drop it off the goal, it allows you all to focus on those three in more depth. Is that what I'm hearing? I mean, that's kind of, I think, what your pitch was.
And I even said, if you want to go to a fourth, we could split two into two goals, one that has a behavioral component, one that has a academic component.
Yeah, thank you. Before I go into 1 and 4, what does tiered systems of support actually mean? I mean, just so that we're all on the same page.
So tiered systems of supports are all the non-special ed supports that we have in the school to provide students prior to them maybe becoming classified, like getting classified by the child study team. For example, basic skills, reading specialists, some kind of counseling, anything different thing. It could even be a meeting with one of our therapists if that's something that could be provided through a 504. So there's a lot of different things that can be done prior to being classified special ed.
And we currently have that now for special ed, right? I mean, do we, where do we have a TSS sort of system in place for, the different facets of education, I guess?
So we have the model, believe it or not, that our state Department of Ed wanted to take our model that Sky Sardanapoli developed a few years ago, and they used our model as one that they sent out to all the districts in New Jersey as something that you could follow. There was like maybe another 2 districts that were involved. So we offer all of these supports already, and these are, like I said, before you get to special ed. Once you get to special ed, all those supports and more are available. These are things that we have available to our students who might be struggling in one way or another to try to help support them prior to them needing to be classified special ed.
Okay, great. And so what the proposal is maybe we develop a TSS for mental health as well. That's the possible angle that we're talking about here tonight?
I wasn't really saying that. What I was saying is if you want, from what I heard from you, you're all talking about the mental health. And I know mental health isn't specifically listed up there, right? Like number 2, it doesn't say the words mental health, doesn't say behavioral, anything like that. If you want us to continue a focus on that, continue down that road, we're going to do it anyway because it's important, right? We care about the whole child here. But if you want to split that goal up and clearly identify that there's part of that goal deals with mental health, behavioral health, things like that, that would be fine.
I find that very interesting, Dino. I think that especially for a system that we already have for special education that winds up being adopted or proposed to be adopted across the state, I think, that just in my mind continues that we want to be leaders in this as we deal with hurdles, as we deal with challenges that come up that every district faces. So from my perspective, I have noticed that a lot of our attention is towards special ed as well as mental health. And I tend to sometimes feel that our advanced students are also not focused on. So I like how number 1 is worded for all students. I'm wondering if we can create some sort of TSS. Well, maybe it's not for a system of supports, or could be sort of twisted as a system of supports that helps advance our gifted and talented. I know we have a gifted and talented program that we're developing, but can we make something more rigorous? So those are sort of my 2 thoughts in terms of 1 and 2, although I do think that mental health is a large part. It's very important for the district. I do think that number 4 could be not included in this, frankly, because we have to communicate with the community, right, for numbers 3 and number 2. And developing a plan is something we've talked about, and I think, Dino, you just mentioned as well. I mean, we've talked about developing a plan for years. And it almost is as if the plan that we would want to create almost becomes obsolete. Do we include social media? Do we not include social media? You know, and then we got to worry about all the policies and any of the challenges that comes with social media. So yes, maybe a plan is not necessary because we just need to continue to adapt when we want to communicate. So I definitely am a proponent of 1 and 3. Love to see how number 2 would look. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so James, just to clarify, so don't read tiered system of supports as special education. It's actually, and we got to get you on the curriculum committee, even as a visitor, maybe once. No, because I think it'll help, because we actually went through all this with Sky when she developed it. So it's actually multifaceted, and it really is geared towards children. Not necessarily special education. It may be dealing with anxiety, gifted kids dealing with anxiety. I mean, it really is a kind of a broad spectrum of support. That's why it's phrased that way, tiered system of supports. So yeah, so it is already something I think that is in place broadly across the district. I think, Steve, and what I think the administration's getting at is we can layer on more, right? As we find out things that work or things that don't work, we can change and adjust and add to it. So it's it's kind of a mosaic of things you can kind of add into the mix.
Yeah, thanks for
Is that
clarifying
a fair, Steve? Is that kind of a fair summary of it?
Yeah, I mean, that's why we have, most of our goals are about continuing things, right? Because we've already do some of these things. Like number one, we've been, obviously that has to be a goal, right? We always should be working on increasing achievement, and that's been a goal for every year I've been here. Something along those lines. Number 2, the tiered systems of supports, definitely. It's exactly, it's like all the things that we have, all the different services and all the different possible programs or interventions we have, maybe that's the right word, interventions for students to help them succeed. That's what it is. So like a reading specialist, a basic skills teacher, the math coaches, all these different things that are there to help. And then obviously number 3, right, that's just a huge project that, I know the board is going to be involved with. As a matter of fact, I think Mr. Kim's going to talk about asking the president to wrap that up and get that committee going by sometime in July.
I did remember one thing from the strategic planning sessions that we had. There was a lot of parents or maybe from the teachers, talk about having the district and the put some more effort towards the arts or come back towards the arts, right? I think that 5 years ago, we thought that, the arts weren't as important, and as a result, it might have been sort of pushed aside. But I think that because of the vacuum, there was some teachers and some parents that really thought that we should spend some time on the arts as well. So I just wanted to put that out for the board as well.
And so everybody knows, we did some projects at Valley View, at the middle school, for our arts. We renovated the art room and the instrumental music room, and we've offered more instrumental music, and we're looking at ways. It's, again, I didn't put that as one of our goals this year because there's so many other things, and I don't think we're going to get to it. So that's why I didn't put it on there. It's an investigating year, and the year after would be an implementing year of how can we get some of the instrumental music, not lessons, because we do that now, but larger groups during the school day at the middle school. And that's one of the big things that we're trying to work on. So it is something that's on the horizon. It's just probably not going to be pushed to the forefront for this next year.
I think maybe there's just some language issues with number 2 that we could kind of clear up to make it more understandable to ourselves and the public. But my understanding is, like, with a tier 1, that could be almost any kind of intervention on any level with the general student population. And isn't that correct? I mean, that could be a seminar on meditation or yoga or something like that, and that could still be considered like a tier 1.
There's so many different things you could do. That could always be something that we could do, sure. So the answer is yes.
Right, so there's a lot of flexibility there, but going back to what I said before, I think, we need to make sure that we're knowing what our specific goals are. And to you, James, I remember at the convention, it was a high school, but I mentioned it to you, they actually used therapy dogs with the AP students after they took their AP exam to help them kind of calm down the anxiety and stress. So there's lots of things that we can do if we're intentional about it. I think if it's sloppy and haphazard, it doesn't really accomplish much. But if you're thinking, that's something we want to do across the board for all students, helping them to deal with their anxiety or what have you, and then what would that look like? Maybe unlike everyone else here, though, I'm not really ready to budge on number 4. I think the fact that you've said that you've tried for years and we still have a lousy communication system is actually an indictment rather than support of
All right,
dropping
hold on
it
a
off.
second. Hold on a second, right there. We've spent a lot of time on communication. As a matter of fact, when we hired the communications expert, whose job is communications, he said, wow, you guys do an amazing job of communication. So I don't know if I would say that we do a lousy job of communication. I think we put out so much stuff. Maybe there's a way, like I wrote down here, streamline it. Maybe there's a way we need to streamline this so that it's like a one-stop shopping. I think that might be something that we could do, but if we do it, we would be doing it through like a survey, find out what the public thinks about everything, not just a small sample of people, but a large sample of people. Is there some other ways we could be improving our communication? Look at the current communication system. There's something else we should be adding. And remember, even though I know, Cliff, you brought it up, but our Friday folder, and everybody's, the Friday folder, it goes to 4,000 email addresses and has a 65% open rate. Our communications expert, again, and the people that we deal with anybody who advertising says something like a 20% open rate is a big deal. So to get a 65% open rate is pretty great. So I'm not saying that there's not room to grow, but I don't think I would say we're lousy. It's something that we're always working on trying to improve. And I would be happy to, if the board really feels like 4 needs to be in there, I don't mind adding it in there. Obviously, like I keep telling you, 3 is going to take a lot of my time. So like I'm just being honest with you. 3 is going to be a huge amount of time next year, and I don't want to, do it halfway, like you said, Cliff.
I can add to the communications. I've been kind of an outlier on this, because all the years I've been here, there's always somebody complaining about communications, okay, no matter what it is. And as you know, I do most of the group emails for Hub Soccer. We do the Friday folders, and there's always somebody comes back and says, I didn't know. So, and you got 65%, that's pretty good. So if you read develop a plan, it sounds like we never had a plan. So I think since I've been here, the communications has really improved over the years. There's always something you can tweak and do better. And you're right about people's mailboxes just being stuffed with emails there. So sometimes you just go through them real quick, or you delete them. You don't even read them. So if that was going to stay in there, I wouldn't say develop a plan for consistent and streamlined community communication, because we already have, I think, is a pretty good process for communication. So maybe it's some fine tuning, like, continue to develop too, because we have made tremendous strides in that, and we spent a lot of time discussing it over the years too. But if it's taken out, it's something that's always something. It's something we always have to do, is have good communications with the public, but also the stakeholders in town. Besides the parents, there's a lot of the people that get affected by what we do in our school system.
So we didn't. I put remember, a reminder. Like, that's why I write the word topics. These aren't the goals; these are topics. So I guess in hindsight, maybe I could have just written work on communications or something like that instead of develop a plan. But the reason why I wrote it the way I wrote it is because it's all incorporated. It would be including using our communications expert to design a very pinpoint, very accurate, in her mind, right, what she does for a living, way to get information from the public on how we can improve and what is our existing systems like. So that was included in there. That's why I wrote it the way I wrote it. And obviously this has been a goal for years, right? We always talk about improving communication, but I just wanted to point that out.
So you actually said something which I wonder about. If we have an expert, and I know we hired her this last year, and we've been using her kind of on a contract basis, but can we rely maybe more on her? And from a bandwidth point of view, can we have her help develop the plan kind of synchronously while we're doing, while you guys are doing the rest?
Yeah, in this tight budgets year, I really reduced her costs, like, because we had to cut it. When we're cutting like serious things, I couldn't leave the full amount for her. So we only really have maybe something like 20 hours with her. So it's not a lot of time. Like for her to develop, if we were going to do it, she could develop the survey and things like that and then help guide us through it. But we don't have a lot of time with her this year.
So I just like what you said before, that it's an investigation year. So we're going to investigate options to, one, increase achievement for all students, math, STEM, art, and social emotional learning, and that can be one goal. Or two, expand and accommodate possible increases in student population, so that you're kind of incorporating those two things together. You're investigating everything this year so that we can implement new things next year. And I think having the answers so that we can come back to say, okay, here are the answers and this is what we're going to do, kind of sets us up for whatever next year brings us. And then if you wanted to add, investigate better ways to communicate as the third type of goal, and then just 1, 2, 3, investigate. Those are my thoughts from you guys. Thanks.
So just to clarify, I apologize for the word lousy. And listen, it's on there because every single person at the strategic planning meeting talked about it. So it's not just hypothetical. It's not like there's just a few people that are struggling to get information and feel connected. I listened to them. I was listening to that particular group, and I resonated with them. Even as a board member, I have trouble at times. And I sent an email to you about some of the interesting things that come up when you try and Google information or deal with that website. And to me, this is just scratching the surface, because it really is about working to try and connect the community with the school, and I don't think that should be taken for granted, because what I hear is a struggle from a lot of parents. So I see that as a first step, not as a solution, and I would hesitate to use the communication experts, and she's the one that said that we had a great website, and I know for a fact that there are plenty of schools that have better systems than that. So I don't have a lot of confidence in her for that particular area anyway. And honestly, it's not an indictment. It is really hard, and it's a specialized field. User experience, which I happen to know a little about, just a click-through rate isn't necessarily a great indicator. So I just want to put that out there, and I don't want it to, because what I'm hearing is concerning. Like, we've done this, we've looked at this, it's okay, we don't have to worry about. Well, that's problematic, because then it keeps getting put on the back burner, and well, I'll just leave it there, and I said my piece.
No, thanks,
Let
Cliff.
me just clarify too.
Go ahead, Steve.
Our communications expert didn't say that the website is great. She said our communication is great. So because of how many people actually open what we send and all the different types of methods of communication, we were waiting for the strategic plan to come out to do some work on the website. That's part of it. So, the web, I know it might seem like a But you remember our website, like
She said that there was so much information that there was probably not a good way to organize it better on the website, and I remembered it because it struck me as odd that she could think that. So she did make a comment. Maybe she didn't mean to, but she made a comment about our website being sufficient, which, I'm using the word sufficient, but I don't.
It might sound like a small project, but it's a huge project to switch the website to something else. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it, but there's a whole process involved in this. And if we did it, like, this would be the plan, like, we'd be planning year, and then the year after would be the implementation year.
So maybe to try to pull this together a little bit. It sounds like largely we all feel pretty strongly about all four. Again, different mixes of us, but I think we all like the four we have. I think maybe as long as we have a little more depth and increased achievement for all students, making sure that we're talking about all the curriculum areas, not just math and science, and it sounds like you are. And then tiered system of supports, we are delving into some mental health. That is going to include some efforts to address mental health. So I don't think we're necessarily talking about adding a goal, Steve. I think we're talking about maybe deepening those first two a little bit.
Okay, so I think one is covered because it says all. And Sandy specifically said that we need to focus on science and math. So it's all students with a focus on science and math. Doesn't mean that we're not going to talk about the other stuff. But then please also, Charlene, if you don't, make a note that we'll just include, something like including a focus on student and staff mental health or something like that.
Again, I don't think it's a geometric increase in the amount of work we're asking you to do. I think it's just I think we're just diving a little deeper.
No, and these are the goals these are the goal areas that we recommended. There's one from each of the four goals. I mean, 4 is important. I'm not saying it's not, but you can't compare it to 1, 2, and 3. It's just not. But that doesn't mean that it's not important, because really 4 is involved in number 3. The word communication is number 3.
That's my point, is that I think it's involved in all of them.
They're tight,
actually.
right, exactly.
I think we have to be able to communicate effectively.
Exactly.
And I think, I think James and Cliff are right. I think we do a decent job communicating. We put out a lot of information, but I think it can be information overload. And we also focus on when people say, I couldn't find it, or I have no idea what you're talking about, or I never saw that, right? Those are always the situations that come to light. So, it's something we're going to continually have to work on. It's been frustrating for me because 9 years we've spent talking about it. We've put significant amount of effort into it. And I felt like we've been chasing our tail. Like we've always been behind. Social media, is that important? Pushing it out, having texts, whatever, the app, we did the app. Like we've done all of these things. I just feel like none of them have really clicked in a way that's been like moved the needle very much. So maybe we just have to keep.
It's hard because you have to do like the survey before and the survey after, right? Our surveys don't come back bad. So when we're asking the public on what they think, I mean, we have to get we have to get an accurate sample size, and then you have to go with what you get, right? My statisticians up here, once you get an accurate sample size of your population, you either have to use the data or not, right? So you have to take the data. It'll be up to you guys to make sure that, people that you hear from are saying so-and-so that actually do the survey, right? So they have to do the survey. If you want to be heard, you do the survey, and then those things can be put into place. I mean, it's really hard to make large-scale change based on a couple anecdotal reports, right? Here we are. We're going to go out. We're going to ask the public. We're going to get 400 people are going to write back. That's what we got the last time. We'll get 400 people again, and we're going to use that to guide us.
Stephen, interestingly enough, when you have a survey that's being sent out through our normal communications method, those who actually open the email and respond to it are the ones that are going to respond positively. So, I think it's one of those things where do we have enough sample size of people who actually don't open the emails and be able to respond? I'm not going to disagree with you. I think from a budgetary standpoint, developing more sophisticated communication or tools, better websites, integrated process that might include apps on the phone or everything like that would drive up the cost, right? That's something that's going to cost tens of thousands, of dollars, if not more. So I think we're caught in a rock and a hard place. I think that, but this conversation, this discussion is great, I think, because then it sort of drives us and says, well, what can we do better? And, if we have the budget, if we can sort of talk through this and figure out what could possibly done to be better, then, maybe we do get to that next level. So, thank you.
I think also that this was an important component of the strategic plan. I think you mentioned it as well. And so, we also have to be mindful of the fact that it was such a big topic that there were so many things mentioned that we have to think of it during that 5-year period. It sounds like we're trying to solve or looking at focusing on everything right now, recognizing that, like, I think, like, to me, I keyed in on the word streamlined. I think that was one of the things, and you've all mentioned it as well, that we get so many things, like people said, like, just help us find the important things, help us find the things we need to know and make it easy for us to find those things. So I think we have to be mindful of the fact of the importance of communication, all the different ways that were mentioned in the strategic plan, recognize that we have a 5-year window to accomplish that, and then now what are we going to look at this year and focus on this year? The other thing too that I also wanted to make sure that we didn't lose, we've talked about like kind of looking at maybe more specifics, and while we've only talked about the goal piece of this, so we're kind of involved in the what, like what are the priorities, recognizing that there is a how to these as well, so some of those actionable items that you had mentioned that said would be important as a part of this process, to understand what those would be, recognize that that is part of the process, but that's kind of not our conversation right now, so I just want to make sure we're all aware that that's coming, that's part of this, and if people think we're not talking about it tonight, just wanted to, for the benefit of the community, make them aware that there is another piece to this, that we're kind of looking at the big picture, we're identifying the big areas, and then the administration will then come back to the board and tell them how they're going to carry out the what, that we have been part of the conversation in developing. So.
Great. So, okay, I think, do we have enough, I think, on this?
So I think essentially we're staying with these 4 goals, which is kind of a little bit of tweaking of focus.
I think, is that where everybody's kind of on the same page with that?
Yeah, just sharpening the wordings.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll have them on the agenda for the 26th after Charlene sends me her notes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect. Great. All right.
Okay, we want to switch to board goals then?
Yes, sounds good. So, yeah, board goals. So, what would we like to accomplish this year? What as a board, and again, that can be education, that can be outreach, that can be, really it's kind of open to, what do we think we can be doing better as a board, or what would we like to, sharpen our skills, sharpen our abilities.
Well, and I think to build on, Don had also mentioned that number 3 will probably be a heavy lift from the board.
For sure.
So I just wondered how you feel that the board can help support that goal, and what are things that will be the board's responsibility as a part of that. So.
Don.
Yeah, I think that should be the board goal. That number 3, worded differently, but I came on board when we had the learning cottages. It wasn't politically correct to call them trailers, but we had those, and we didn't have the security needs back then that you have today. So today's time that we're in, you don't want to have anybody housed outside in trailers. That you want them inside the school, the brick and mortar. So that to me is just critical. And I was here too when the student count was over 2,000, and you had over 800 kids up at Lakeview, and took forever to get the kids out of the building in the afternoon for the buses there with the signs with the bus numbers on them and everything lined all the way down this hall. So that to me is a real critical goal to start doing the work on that. And again, you can make a decision tomorrow, and it's going to take a couple of years to put everything into place.
And Charlene, just to add to that, we have a space committee which we're starting this summer meeting. So I think we probably even have a little bit of a framework in place to be able to support that as a goal.
Perfect.
If I may, thank you. One of the things that I began to realize as I end my second term here as a board member, that there's a lot more that we could do with school boards. I sat in I think my second or third delegate assembly this past about a month ago. And a lot of resolutions were brought up from other districts that, that was voted on for school boards to support. And it got me thinking about some of the thoughts that I had. I mean, I reached out to Brian Bergen a couple times about different issues from a finance committee standpoint. So I would love to see if we as a board can now begin to adopt resolutions internally and then bring them up into school boards. For example, the purchases of school buses that can only be used with operating budget and not reserves. You know, an investment like electric school buses is going to be a large dollar figure. And, you know, with a fiscally healthy district like ourselves that have built up reserves, it only makes sense for us to maybe take something that's so expensive and try to finance that with reserve funds. And, you know, what I've learned is that it's state regulated and whatnot. And I've tried to reach out to legislators and, you know, really haven't seen much movement, but I then began to realize that we can have school boards as an ally. So wanted to see if we can start maybe looking at introducing some resolutions to create change, well, you know, from a legislative standpoint. So wanted to present that and ask what the board thought with regards to a board goal.
And I don't know if you know this, there's another reserve called an emergency reserve. And maybe the school boards, with your guidance, if your push, would consider trying to push the legislature to create either a transportation reserve, which would make sense, an equipment reserve, something along those lines, or allow the emergency reserve to be used for things like that. So there's a lot of rules about emergency reserve. It gets hard to take the money out. So people don't usually use emergency reserve because of all that. But maybe they could come up with a transportation or equipment reserve, things that last, let's say, 5 years or more, something like that. I understand not using a reserve for something that's consumable, but if it lasts, you know, maybe it's a negotiated, maybe it's got to be 10 years or more, something like that. And maybe that would work, something along those lines.
See, and I love that, Steve. I really appreciate you mentioning that. And any time that we're in our committees and we are faced with, oh, we can't do that because of, you know, a regulation or statute or something like that, then we as a board can now maybe frame out a resolution that we can then present to school boards and see about, you know, start implementing some change or seeing if there's ways that we can address some of these challenges and issues, you know, like mental health challenges that we might come up with. I don't sit in the IMP committee, so I don't know some of the discussions there, but, you know, anything, you know, whether it's operations related, finance related, you know, IMP related. So would love to see if we could, as a board, start doing that or start thinking about doing that, you know, so.
I mean, that to me is what the board goals should be related to. These goals, but the advocacy side of these goals. How do you advocate for change? Is there any, like, let's think about it. We're talking about expansion, right? Because why? Because there's some building that's being done. Why? Because the legislature hasn't passed a law to rein in the COA regulations, which is driving more development, right? So maybe that's something that we could look at as a possibility of advocacy, something along those lines. I know the board, there's going to be committee on number 3, and there's some advocacy things you could help with that too. Like if there is an important planning or adjustment board meeting, maybe we need to attend those, maybe a board meeting, something like that. So if you could visualize the board's role in these things as advocacy of 1 through 4, that would be great.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a really strong, I think it's a really strong suggestion, a really strong goal. I mean, there are lots of levers, and I'm sure Charlene can shed some light on this, but there's lots of levers at school board that we can pull. Not only the delegate assembly, but you have the legislative committee, you have school boards organizes outreach to legislators. I mean, you know, there are days where we members of the boards will go down and sit with legislators. I mean, so there's lots of things I think we can do statewide, locally, county. And I know school boards, again, has a lot of resources that we've probably only really scratched the surface of.
you know, we're still members of Garden State Coalition, which is another group that advocates for districts. And we were also members of that Fair Funding Action Committee that might need to come back together. So there are other venues. I mean, school board's great too, but maybe I go to Garden State Coalition, but you guys are welcome to go too. So there's some of those things that we could, you know, rely on you guys to do from that standpoint, changing laws, advocating, things like that.
What's everybody else think? Does that sound like a good one? Typically, Charlene, we come with one or two, right? I mean, that's pretty much our goals. That's, you know, they sound doable. They sound like smart goals to me, at least on the surface of it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think basically at the end of the day, it's funding, right? It's funding related to if they're going to approve so many residences being built, right? Then hopefully associated with it would be funding for the districts, right? Again, you know, there are so many, you know, Don has mentioned many times the unfunded mandates that comes down from the states. And I think can we, you know, at least highlight that at the legislature level. I think I like that.
Let me throw another monkey wrench at you. There's also something called a pilot, which stands for payments in lieu of taxes. What happens there is when there's a redevelopment needed, and there have been one, and there's another one that's going to happen in Denville, the school district doesn't get additional revenue from the improvements done to the land. So let's just say the land is worth $1 million, as is. We only get our taxes on that $1 million. Now, if the land's worth $10 million after the improvement, the other $9 million we don't get. We don't get $9 million. We don't get the taxes on that $9 million. We only get the tax on $1 million, like the original value of the land before the improvements are made. And that can be for 5, 10, 15, up to 25 years. The last one was a 5-year. This next one's a 25-year. Just so you guys know about that too.
And we don't get a seat at the table when those discussions happen. We have no input other than just making our case to the mayor, to the council, but we have no formal input into that process. It's terrible.
Maybe this is an opportunity to even start thinking about how do we go about doing it. We may not be there by end of next year, but you know, unless we start thinking about how do we, you know, put our voice out there so that we are heard, right? I think that's
How we communicate with the public.
indeed.
So do you consider the pilot to be another goal? You know, so we looked at kind of the work in putting your committee together to support number 3, right? Then we said we're going to do advocacy work that helps support all 4 of them. Do you consider the pilot to be another avenue of advocacy, or do you consider it to be its own goal?
We roll it into advocacy. I mean, it's advocacy just at a different level. I mean, it's at
That's
the
perfect.
at the local level, right? I mean, I think, but yeah, I think the advocacy we should consider is at, you know, town, county, state level. Like, we should try to, you know, focus on all 3.
We have in the past, when John Parisi is here, had discussions with the town council about that. You know, and the town's always concerned about ratables. So when, you know, something new goes up in particular, you know, it's more money coming into the town, and they do try to be very fiscally prudent with the raising taxes. But it's a big jump, though. But you remember what happens with St. Clair's too, with Spring Point, right? When they had a big lawsuit going on with the town there, and got their tax base reduced. I don't remember the exact percentage, Steve. But you maybe remember it was millions and millions. It was big impact to the town when we lost all those taxes. And of course, any of us really feel strongly about it always can run for the town council.
Yeah. I mean, it's all tied together, right? Because pilots, you know, we've had conversations with the town, and their argument is, well, we have to give pilots because if the developers sue us and go for builder's remedy, they're going to build anyway, and then because of the COA requirements, we're then going to be opened up to even more development, right? So this is us basically moderating what we feel is the worst case scenario. So it comes back again to advocacy, and now it's advocacy about COA. and the fact that in 2 years, the Mount Laurel, the first 10 years is ending. God knows what's going to happen for the next 10 years, right? So I think our advocacy efforts in large part should be about that, because what the legislator does or doesn't do in the next 2 years is going to have a huge impact on all the districts across the state, until 2035, potentially, so.
Great job, yeah. So I think we accomplished what we set out to do tonight, right?
Thank you.
So
No,
I will
you-
get this back to you, and then, like it was said, you will, at an upcoming meeting, formally adopt these as your goals so that it is clear to everyone what your goals are, so.
Awesome. Charlene, thank you again. You always keep us organized. You get us all together. Everything that school boards does to help us through this process, we appreciate.
It is my pleasure. Thank you. Good night,
Thanks.
everyone.
Thanks, Charlene.
Okay. All right. Yeah, with that, it's going to be up, we're back to the agenda, actually. So, yeah, Steve, I know Sandy's
Yep.
not here. Are you
I
ready-
have everything.
Are you ready to go?
So graduation Valley View this Friday at Morris Knolls. Forget, we have school boards convention October 23 to 26. It does conflict with the Board of Ed meeting. I put that down for a discussion if I don't really know how we're going to address this. We want to change the board meeting? Do you guys want to think about it? It's a Monday night is our board meeting, and school boards goes Monday through Thursday.
Yeah, yeah. We should have asked Charlene if they could move it while she was here. Yeah, I mean, let's have that discussion. I mean, it kind of comes up every year. I guess maybe the first question is, who's thinking of going this year down there, and then maybe that'll determine, how we handle it. James.
Yeah, I'm just raising my hand because I'm announcing that I'm going to be going down to the convention.
Do you go the first day too, James, on the Monday?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one.
Yeah,
I have to go this year. I'm going to be presenting, but I don't know the date yet.
Okay. I mean, I'm probably going to go. I mean, my plan was to go. So I don't know if you had. You don't have to answer that right. You don't have to answer right now, but yeah, let us know. Yeah. So I mean, it's not until October, but yeah.
All right, I'll put it on as a discussion item for the next meeting, okay?
Do we have a meeting the 9th of October as well?
Yeah, 9th and 23rd is what's on my calendar. I had proposed that we move the 23rd meeting to the 30th, even though it's going to be 3 weeks from the working session. If you move forward to November, I think we only have do we have one meeting scheduled in November, I believe, right? Yeah, and it would be 2 weeks after our regular session if we had move it to the 30th. So my proposal is that we move it to the 30th of October.
Damaris, is there any timing issue at that time of year? Is the extra week, would that pose us any trouble in terms of approving anything that might be timely, or?
No, it will not be. I just had to re-advertise. That'll be
Okay.
fine.
All right. Okay.
I'm going to add as a discussion item through the summer. And if we figure it out before that, we'll cut it off.
Very good.
Okay, Valley View was awarded the State School of Character. Just want to let everybody know that. I did mention it in the PowerPoint, but I wanted to stress that. Listen to this list of championships from Morris Knolls Athletics this year, I'm not going to say most, but a lot of them are Valley View Athletic alum. As a matter of fact, the softball team finished second in the state group. They lost by 1 run, and that's 4 years later from our county championship, Valley View girls. So there's a few. So the boys indoor track was sectional champions. Wrestling this year, we were district champs. We had 3 Valley View alumni qualify for the New Jersey State Championships in Atlantic City. One's name's Forte, then Delmonica and Gomes. Baseball, state Group 3 champions, first in school history, overall champions, amazing. Few kids, Ryan Iber, Luke Dickerson, Mike Simone, Brody Frecker. These are kids that are, there's one senior and 3 juniors. They are really loaded. They're kids going, going to be playing in college, probably going to get drafted. This is really something. And these kids all played, the ones I just mentioned, all played on our Valley View team a few years back. And you remember we had them in here. They were champions. So this is what happens when they get to high school. I already talked about the softball, and I don't have all their names, but the golf was conference champions, and I looked at the picture. They were all kids that went to our schools and played sports in Valley View. So I wanted to tell you guys that. Thank you.
Cool. That's, I'm sorry, were you done or just taking a drink of water?
I'm done.
Oh, okay. When do you do the list of colleges that our alumni have been accepted to? Does that come later?
It's weird now that my son's a senior. I always ask them for it, but I already have all of it because they have this Instagram page with all where the kids are going to things. So I could probably just sit up here with my phone and read it out to you. But there's some really heavy hitter programs people are going to. Somewhere around 6 kids going in the military, somewhere along those lines. I'll have it for you over the summer, though.
Perfect. Great. Thanks. Okay. Dr. Coles isn't here tonight. Were there any comments for her, Steve, or you covered everything?
I covered what I had, yes.
Okay, great. Damaris, Business Administrator, anything tonight?
No comments.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Well, we are actually up to the public discussion portion of the meeting. These are items that are on the agenda or matters that are found important to be for the Board of Education. I'm not going to read the entire policy. It is in the agenda here, but just suffice it to say that when you come up, if you come up and would like to make a comment, just announce your name and address, and we will take it from there. We're going to open from public comment at 9:14 p.m. I don't see anyone online other than us. Okay. Seeing no one in the chamber approach, I'm going to close also at 9:14 p.m. and we will move on to old business, no action to be taken. Dr. Moore, I'm going to tap you. Would you mind taking us through these old business items for our next meeting?
Sure. Okay, so these are items that myself or someone else will move for approval at the next meeting. We have letter A, which is the treasurer of school monies and board secretary reports. B is the education reports, and C are the minutes.
Great.
I'll second.
Nope, just going through it tonight, Tom. Any questions or comments on these? Okay, we're going to move on to new business, and I didn't plan this very well. Dr. Moore, I'm going to ask you to do personnel again. I'll keep you going.
Thank you. I'd like to move the following resolutions for approval. Under item number 1, there are some new hires, leave replacements, retroactive pay for involvement in the Heritage Celebration Committee, summer help, after-school enrichment, several vacation days being cashed in, 2 resignations and a retirement, and then there's a leave replacement on the addendum, which is under 1 is letter R. And then for number 2, we're approving the Denville Education Association salary guide, which is attached for 2023 to 2027.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Moore. Thank you, Mr. Kim. I just want to offer congratulations to Mr. Stark, the custodian, who's going to be retiring in July. Thank him for his service. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I had a question.
Go ahead, Don.
Are we going to be utilizing any of our, like, high school students for summer help in the past? I know we use them for some projects periodically.
We have approved a few high school students, not necessarily from Morris Knolls, but they are within the range of 16, 18 years old.
That's great.
Sounds good. Okay, and just calling out for the public, number 2, we're approving the salary guide with the DEA. We had previously approved our agreements with them. These are for the contract. The DEA is the major labor unit in Denville schools, encompassing certificated, non-certificated staff, and their contracts come up every few years, and this one has been resolved and agreed to prior to its expiration at the end of the month. So we're very happy about that, and thank them for working with us to get that done quickly and pretty easily. Okay. If nothing else, roll call, please.
Mrs. Adelis?
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan?
Yes.
Dr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Kim?
Yes.
Mr. Cass?
Yes.
Mr. Capello?
Yes. Okay, moving on to finance. We are still in action to be taken. So, Mr. Kim?
I motion that we move tonight, number 1, the contract, to award the contract to Dreambox Learning that supports personalized math instruction to students for next school year for the amount of $35,598.
I'll second.
I do want to add that this will be funded with the ESSER 3 funds.
So, Damaris, without going down a rabbit hole, ESSER 3, what does the number mean? Because we've always talked about ESSER, but I've never understood what the.
In 2021, they developed the ESSER 1. In 2022, they developed the ESSER 2, which is not really 2, but they call it 2 because just when the next one, but it's ARP, American ARP.
It's just to denote the different like different, as they
Correct.
came online?
Yes,
Okay,
but
gotcha.
the original is 1, 2021.
Got it, thank you. Okay, everybody good? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Adelis?
Yes.
Dr. Aruna Jatasan?
Yes.
Dr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Kim?
Yes.
Mr. Cass?
Yes.
Mr. Capello?
Yes. Okay, moving on to new business, no action to be taken. Dr. Moore, I'm going to throw it back to you for personnel.
Yes, either myself or someone else will move for approval of the following resolutions. Under item number 1, there's a move from part-time to full-time for a custodian, a move up the guide, a stipend for extra class being taught, extra periods, and the move of rooms, ESY program over the summer. There's teacher, instructional aid, several other teachers. There's teacher to complete book audit and diversification of libraries. 2 teachers for that, and instructional aid to do that as well. Another stipend for science curriculum writing for summer 2023. And then another one for social studies curriculum writing. And then for the principal and assistant principal of Valley View for the completion of the New Jersey School of Character program. And then we have item number 2, which is an attached list of stipends and extracurricular positions for 2023, 2024. And item number 3, which is the contract for the Director of Special Services, Grace Johnson. And item number 4 is new hire substitutes for a bus driver and bus aide position.
Great, thank you. Any comments or questions about these items that we'll be voting on next time? All right, if not, let's move on. Instruction and program, Mr. Anderson isn't here. Mrs. Adelis, would you care to tell us about these items for next meeting?
Sure. So at the next meeting, we will approve the following resolutions under instruction and program. Be resolved, workshops with expenses. The board, we're going to move to have the board approve the following professional development workshops with expenses for staff members.
Great, thank you. All right, if nothing here, let's move on to policy revisions. Again, we are still in new business, no action to be taken. Dr. Arunachitesan, would you care to move us through these or just walk us through them? You don't have to do it. Yeah, yeah, you don't have to.
The next meeting, either myself or someone would move to approve the following policies and regs for second reading and adoption. There are several policies and regulations that is to be for second reading, and there is one Reg 9140 for abolishment and three new policies and regulations. Policy 4217, use of corporal punishment, that's a new one, and policy 6115.04, that's a federal funds duplication of benefits, that's a new one, and the regulations federal awards funds for internal controls allowability of costs, that is a regulation, that's also a new one. So that's it.
Great, thank you. Everybody good? Okay. All right, moving on. Finance, Mr. Kim, would you care to walk us through these for the next meeting?
Sure. There will be 13 resolutions that we will be voting on during the next meeting. I'll highlight the ones that I believe are important. Number 3 is our annual resolution for capital reserve transfers, not to exceed $5 million. Number 4 is the annual resolution for the maintenance reserve transfer, which is not to exceed $2 million. Number 5 is to join with other counties or other districts a joint insurance pool. Number 6 will be to notify the state health plan of termination and to approve the 16-month proposal for Aetna as the new health insurance carrier, to be effective September 1st. And I believe there's some other ones there that go down to number 13. There's donations of drum sets, number 12, to accept the donation of $1,200 from Einhorn and Barbarito attorneys that was here to present us with the check this earlier today, and to approve the planting of milkweed at the Lakeview Peace Plaza by the Lakeview PTA.
Great, thank you, Mr. Kim. Yeah, I just want to recognize, obviously, Mr. Ford was here from Einhorn and Barbarito with the check for the donation for mock trial, but just, yeah, want to call out again the other donations, the donation of the drum set from the Sullivans, and as well as, there was one other one. Did I blow past it, or was that it for this? Oh, the milkweed, donation of the milkweed at the Lakeview Peace Plaza, which I believe the PTA is pretty much taken over the management of that. Good, cool.
Just a quick question on the joint insurance pool. Thus far, we've not been a member of that pool. Is that correct?
The insurance is PIP. They call it PIP for short, but it's it's a whole bunch of different districts that comes together to join liability insurance, such as transportation and the liability insurance for the school.
How long have we been in it?
We had been in this particular program for about 8 years,
Oh.
9 years.
Okay, okay. So, okay,
A reauthorization.
Okay,
It's
that's
something
good.
we're doing again, yeah.
okay, that sounds good, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Just want to point out, I want to thank Damaris and everyone in the business office for the work on the health benefits. That has been a challenge for us, and that's been something they've been working on since we first got the notice that the state health benefits were going to be increasing by an inordinate amount. So she was able to secure a proposal from Aetna, and again, for 16 months, not even just 1 year. It's a 16-month commitment, so it's great work, and thank you for following through and getting that done.
It was a team effort.
I'm sure.
Yes.
Thank you for leading it. Okay, nothing else here. Mr. Cass, over to you for operations.
At the next meeting, starting with transportation, I'm going to ask the board to approve use of the district school buses to transport kids from Denville Recreation at an hourly rate of $70 an hour on the dates that are listed. We have Summer Plus trips starting June 7th, ending on August 9th, and then we have the teen trip camp starting on July 10th, and that will run through August 11th on those trips. On the buildings and grounds, I'm going to ask the board to approve Cashman Landscape Management and Design Incorporated for landscaping services district-wide and the amount of $40,000, $723, prorated for fiscal year 2023 and 2024. I will add in that once we utilize Cashman Landscaping, they've done a real good job on keeping our buildings and grounds in great shape. It really saved us a lot of time and money, too. We've had landscapers a quick midway through the summer. That was just a bad situation, right, when the lawn still had to be mowed and they decided to go out of business or whatever happened to them. And also, you can see the professionalism, the way Cashman and the people work on the grounds. They do a phenomenal job.
Yep, and I know they do a lot of stuff just because Steve will make a call and they'll jump on something when need be. So I mean, it's been a long-term valuable vendor part. I'd call it a partnership. I agree with you, Don. Okay. All right. Anything else before we move on to good of the cause? Okay. Yeah, so let's take us into good of the cause. Any committee reports, correspondence? We have a couple of discussion items. We can talk about board highlights in a second, but I'll open it up. Anybody want to start, Don? You look like you have something.
I have a new discussion item.
Okay, go for it.
After our committee meeting for operations, Steve was kind enough to meet me and take a look at Field 6, which came up as a point of discussion at our Recreation Committee meeting, and along with some other locations in town. So I know that Field 6 is partially the property line there. We are responsible we own 3/4 of that field, as well as a good portion of Todd Johnson. So Steve and I walked it, and I haven't been there in a while, but if you stand on the wall there by the playground and look at that field, it is an absolutely deplorable condition. And we take a lot of pride in our buildings and grounds and spent many years making things looking better, but that is really in bad shape. We have a lot of traffic on there with the kids doing recreation and other activities from Riverview School, and then football uses it also in the fall. So it gets a lot of wear and tear, but there's not much grass left there. And it's like Valley View Field was at one time. A lot of low spots and things like that. So it's, people could get hurt on it, the condition that it's in. So, something, I know we got a lot of things on our plate to take care of going forward, but it's something we should take a look at. And Steve had a great suggestion that we, just like we do at Valley View Field, have a professional come in and take a look at what needs to be done. We're rather than us kind of winging it. Somebody's professional with landscape management and, puts money aside. We can look into what it's going to cost to have that done. And also, since besides the school using the field, but we have a lot of sports that use the field too, so see if they'd be interested in paying for that study. And, we're not going to make any decisions, but take a look at the study and find out what needs to be done and what it would cost.
I was able to go to a Guru Vandana, which was a teacher appreciation event. I would just want to thank Bala Samanga and Vishwath Kumar, who invited us, and I was able to go as a representative of Denville. The teacher appreciation event was lovely. They had a lot of singing and dancing, but it was really inspirational. Miss Delargy is a 5th grade teacher here at Lakeview, and she was brought there by one of her students. So I just wanted to thank them again for inviting us and being able to spend some time with them and learn about their culture and their appreciation for teachers. They did have a lighting ceremony where they had all the teachers come up and light a candle and have the oil burning for them. And what they said was that the teachers bring the light, and they shun the darkness and the ignorance. So I appreciated that, and I found it very inspirational. So I just want to tell you guys and say thank you.
Thanks for going. I unfortunately couldn't go. I did send. I think everybody got an invite. You might not have noticed it right away. It took me until the second reminder to pick up on it. But I did send a note back thanking them for the invites. And yeah, it sounds like a lovely program. And I guess something they've been doing actually. This is not the first time.
They have been in operation for the past 8 years out here, and there's chapters all over the United States. It's called the Hindu Swamya Sevak Sangh. And it's a nonprofit organization, and they are going to have this every year. So if you can't come this year, maybe next year.
Was a teacher awarded from one of our teachers?
It was Miss Delargy. She's a 5th grade teacher. It's not so much awarded. It's more recognition and appreciation. So there was a ceremony where they, you bow to your teacher, you utilize the light to kind of shine on your teacher, and then you actually go down and you touch the teacher's feet to kind of represent, the knowledge that they're providing you, and the teacher then sprinkles the student with rice. So it was very nice. I was something I'm not accustomed to and I have never seen before, so it was a really great experience.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, I had a number of things that I wanted to ask or bring up. Was there an updated kindergarten enrollment number that Dr. Cullis provided at all, or?
She'll do it the next meeting.
Okay, great. I wanted to thank you, Steve, for recognizing the students and the athletes within the district. I wanted to propose maybe also recognizing the students that would have the achievement of getting accepted into like the academy or the different programs that are offered in the high school, such as IB program or the magnet program or the different academies. So wanted to sort of put that out there. Don't know how you would do that or anything like that, but wanted to sort of see if I could just put that out there. was able to attend the Rotary Fair, and Dino, your strollers metric is something that resonates with me constantly now. So just the number of strollers became our unofficial barometer of what the student enrollment might look like. And I was seeing a lot of strollers. So that unofficial metric that we use is a great, I was not surprised, but definitely aware of the significant number of strollers that was out there. I did want to bring some meeting minutes from the finance and operations meeting that we had. Just want to highlight some of them. The Lakeview HVAC is supposed to be finished by November. There is a possibility, at least me personally, that it might be delayed beyond that, but we are, Damaris has contacted the not the funds, but the grant, right? There's a high chance that we can get extension on the grant.
The grant manager, and let me just correct that. The contractor is not promising that they will be finishing by November. However, the grant is due November. However, we can request an extension.
Yeah, so we just wanted to let the board know that that may happen by the end of this year. So we'll definitely keep the board updated on that during our meetings. I'm sure that Dr. Forte mentioned that there's a lawsuit versus social media that's out there. So I don't know if that was discussed during the other committee meeting, but that was discussed in our meeting. And so that's something that we should be keeping an eye on as well. And wanted to ask you, Mr. President, whether or not, I know that we'll have that Space Considerations Committee. Just wanted to remind you what your thoughts are with that. So.
Yeah, no, we had, the plan is, I think, to launch it in July, right? Kind of the July timeframe seemed like a good, once we get past the end of the school year, we have a tiny little bit of a break before we start rolling into the next year. But yeah, we have the members assigned, so I think we just have to get together.
Great, thank you.
If you are ready to do it, I could have the resolution on the 26th board meeting.
Yep.
If you know the committee members.
Yep, yeah,
Okay.
so let's do it. Okay, so
The highlights for tonight, I have the board accepted a donation of $1,200 from Einhorn Barbarito for the funding of the Valley View Mock Trial Club presented by attorney Mr. Tim Ford, who also donates several hours per year as a mentor for the club. Officer Bill Underwood of the Denville Police Department was acknowledged for his service to the community and the schools upon his retirement from the Denville Police Department. Valley View girls soccer and basketball county championship teams were acknowledged, and Valley View was awarded the New Jersey School of Character.
Sound good? We had a busy meeting, so that all sounds good. Okay. All right, if nothing else, we're going to move on. We have one more open comment section. So same rules will apply. If you'd like to make a statement, you just have to approach and give your name and address for the record. We will open at 9:40 p.m.
No one on the Google Meet.
All right, seeing no one in the chamber coming up, we're going to close at 9:41 p.m. We do have a need for executive session, which we'll move into momentarily. We do not anticipate voting after. The executive session will conclude, and that'll be the end of our meeting. Mr. Kim, would you move us into executive for this evening?
Sure, be happy to. I motion that we convene in an executive session in accordance with Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act. The purpose of this closed session will be to discuss negotiations, legal, security, and personnel issues. Minutes of the session will be made available to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Can I have a second?
Oh, yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it? I'll second. Okay, all right, let's start over. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we're in executive at 9:42 PM. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight.